My name's Aaron, welcome back to my channel. How are you? I'm fantastic and I'm doing really well. And today I am doing a little bit of a different review. I am reviewing, in the first part, Nasheen Javiet. And then, in the second part, I'm reviewing it against Creed Aventus. And I have 3 batches of Creed Aventus. You'll see why. The notes are grapefruit, pineapple, bergamot, cedarwood, patchouli, jasmine, dry timberwood, oak moss and clearwood. So clearwood is a very interesting raw material. It smells like very dry patchouli, a little bit woody. That's the best way I can explain it, and it's used to boost patchouli and sort of dryness within a formulation. It is £205 for 50ml. Do we have our full-size bottles of Nasheen Javiet? Are we engaged with our higher self? Let's get testing. I can, straight off a mill, I can sort of understand why it's getting the comparison, but on the dry down it's nothing like it at all. This is really dry, and this is actually patchouli based, so in fact I would think this was a patchouli, healing wood and sort of cedary fragrance. It is musk heavy, and this is how I build formulations actually, so there is similarities between this company and the way I'm doing stuff, and I believe they are a Middle Eastern company, and I do have 53.6% Middle Eastern genes, so I sort of tend to build things for myself, so this is a lot of similarity for this. This is going to be monstrous and it is not going to come off your skin at all. Now they are using a musk accord, and the reason why you would use a musk accord is because majority of people out there can identify one musk, but they may not be able to identify all the different types of musks, and the more musks you put into a formulation, the more you're likely to have somebody identifying that musk. The dry down is so heavy, dense, metallic. This is not an ambroxan monster, and I actually think to compare this to Aventus, it's just nothing like it at all. There is a few similarities, but when you put hedione, acetates to, these aroma chemical, bergamot with some patchouli and healing wood, you sort of get the nuance of Aventus. This does have the pineapple fruit sort of nuances to it, but it's pretty much not flying in your face because you're left with very dry ambers, one called Sidoxide, I think that's how you pronounce it. That is heavy, dry, intense. This has lemon and sweet orange, which I quite like. This just smells so dry, so intense, so aggressive as a fragrance. It has none of that top note that you have with Aventus at all, really. The musk accord is key to this. If you took out the combinations of clean linen musks backed against top note musks, you wouldn't really have this. So this is monstrous, long-lasting, aggressive. I mean, it doesn't smell anything like it at all now. It doesn't smell anything like Aventus at all. Initially you have the fruit burst and the bergamot, and then it is gone. This is how I build fragrances. So this is the nearest thing to my work I've really ever come across. Very good. Very interesting, very unique. This really is never going to come off your skin, which is fantastic, and where perfume you should be going. You can make things long lasting and projecting and make them safe and legal. On to my final thoughts. So the first 4 marks are whether the box complies and it's legal and safe. Yes, it does. The next 2 marks, whether I think it's worth the money. Yes, I do, and I explain why. Because it's going to last on the skin, it's going to be monstrously long lasting, and it is drying down to sort of patchouli and healing wood now. So I think it absolutely is worth the money, simply because of that. And of course you get pretty packaging. And the next 4 marks whether I like it. it's a little bit too base heavy for my liking. I'd love some extension and I'd love some lift with it, and I'd love to see some interesting citruses pushed up quite high with this, but it really is nothing like Aventus at all. I don't understand why people would think it was this similarity, not even a little bit. So I'm going to mark this in an 8 out of 10, and the 2 marks are coming off simply because it hasn't got enough citruses to give that sparkle and effervescence in the top note. So the second part of this video is talking about Creed Aventus. So Creed Aventus for 50ml is £195. So Nasheen was a little bit more expensive. The notes are apple, blackcurrant, pineapple, bergamot, juniper berries, birch, patchouli and jasmine, and the base notes are vanilla, musk, oak moss and ambergris. So before I get on to reviewing it, I thought I'd show you ambergris or ambergris. I make my own. Sometimes I buy it in and sometimes I put it into alcohol. I crush it up, put it into alcohol, 3% concentration. You get 2 different types. You get black and you get white. So this is ambergris. It looks like black slate and the white one looks like white slate. It's very fine, compacted ambergris, and for those who don't know, it is the protective lining of the whale-eating cuttlefishes, and then they vomit it up, and then the excretion, which is ambergris, flies around in the water for years and years and years, and the longer it sits in the water for, the more expensive it becomes and the lighter the colour. The smell of it, it smells of, you would know it straight away to identify it. It's a bit leathery. There's a sea quality to it. There is a icy super sort of quality to it. Ambroxan sort of smell with it, and a few other amber, but it is ambery, leathery and woody. And we keep this and lots of other raw materials in the shop. So if you ever wanted to smell ambergris or ambergris, you're welcome to come to the shop and have a look at all these different raw materials. It adds a noticeable salty, ambery, animalistic quality to fragrances, and I add it to quite a lot of stuff actually because I like the effect it has. It is detectable sort of on a subconscious level to human beings actually, but it has a sort of a thing about it. That's the way I can explain it to you. So Video Unicorn has given me an Excel document with every single batch of Creed Aventus and how much pineapple, how much blackcurrant, how much bergamot, how much apple, how much birch, how much smoke, how much patchouli, how much oak moss, how much ambergris, how much vanilla, how much timber silk, other notes not listed. And this is so perplexing to me because I don't understand why a fragrance would have so much variation from batch to batch. It makes no sense. I make up my concentrates, and the only time you really get variation is when you're adding tinctures and the heavy absolutes. So the heavy things like the ouds, they would have slight variations in them, and the tinctures, I use vanilla tincture and I use coffee tincture, and they get stronger over time. So actually in new batches that I make up, they tend to be stronger in what they are doing. They don't generally have that much variation in it. You don't get that much variation. So I'm going to go through each batch and then I'm going to compare it to that one. These all came from reputable sources, so I think Harrods and Selfridges and all the rest of it, and they were bought over periods of time in preparation for this video. We couldn't find the most popular one, they'll sample, but they sell for £3,000 a bottle, and I'm not spending that for a video. So the first batch is lot number ending in H11N. And lot 11N has a Aventus thing about it. And the one thing, I actually sprayed this on the boys in the factory to tell them what Creed Aventus was like, because it does have this infamy about it. People are, you know, oh, Creed Aventus, and they didn't like it. And I just said, this is Creed Aventus. And the one note that they picked up on about that I didn't was a cress note. It was like a watercress note. They picked up on it, and I thought that was very interesting. They didn't pick up on pineapple, and they didn't pick up on the sort of sweetness with it. This one is quite leathery, and that is from a leathery raw material called Sepcu something. It's a leathery raw material. It's quite apparent in this. And this undoubtedly is, the building blocks are Hedione to get that lift, massive lift, and the jasmine-like quality. The icy super ambroxan. This really is at the time, this really was the start of all the ambroxan monsters. This has a top note musk, and then it has a nitro musk in it to give that sort of softness to it. Now I know the original formulations had Liril in, and I believe now in 2020 you cannot in Europe use Liril, so they're using other lily of the valley raw materials to give that freshness. And the smokiness is to do with mixture of oak moss raw materials, the leathery raw materials, and some other interesting raw materials in there to give that sort of finish to it. It's very light and ozonic. I think at the time it was groundbreaking, but now it's just very saturated. That is always been my thing with it. The second batch is ending in OB01. First off, you have a difference in colour. This one is more yellow and this one is less yellow. So we have an inconsistency in the colour. This wasn't hardly anything like it. This is higher in the patchouli. This is not very nice at all. The first one was more palatable. This has got increased leathery notes, and leather with citrus is really not palatable at all. Yes, I don't like that one at all. This is why with Aventus, when you're formulating it, you have to get it dead on, because too much of the leathery note makes it, for my liking, unpalatable. It has to be at quite trace amounts to make that sort of leatheriness work with the oak moss, otherwise it becomes too overbearing, and that one is too overbearing. I don't even really want to smell it. This batch number is 2OB01. So this one has a different colour to the other two. This is the lightest of all of them. How strange. So this is softer. This is almost undetectable leather notes. We're really going from one extreme to the other. We're going from one which I would consider Creed Aventus, and then we're going to one which is the leather and oak moss are pushed up. I hate oak moss at high raw materials unless they're sweetened. And then we're going to one which is higher amounts of the Liril, which is much more softer and musks. So it is almost like it is a different chemist making it, or that's the only thing I can explain about it. The top note in Aventus is lemon and pink pepper, which work perfectly together. So bizarre, because you have variations on a theme, and it wouldn't be the ambergris. That's one thing I want to say. I think maybe it's a different chemist making it, or there is such differences in them. I prefer this little one. So this is the one I'm going to compare and contrast. So I'm going to go and wash my skin, and I'll be back shortly. So I'll go through my marks with you. I think it's technically, for the time, it is fantastic, and for the money, I think there's better things nowadays. I think it's slightly overpriced, to be honest. I think it needs to be about 160. I think it'd be an ideal thing for it. Do I like it? 10 years ago, if I'd never smelt it, this is always my argument, I think I would love it, but I've just smelt it so much now. It's sort of, I would love to see Creed Aventus come up with a nuclear, reinvented, more up-to-date fragrance. I think they would reinvigorate the whole brand, and I think this supports the whole brand. That's sort of the conversations I've had with people. So on the left arm I'm going to spray Nishane. I do hope I'm pronouncing it right. And then on the other arm, Aventus. I never talk about packaging, but this packaging is beautiful. This just feels very plasticky, and I'd love to see the whole thing really updated. So this is, I believe, £10 more than this. It is nothing like, nothing. You have similarities, nuances. So you have the patchouli and healing wood, the lemon, the edione, and the fruit molecules. In this you have lightness, effervescent. The apple note is a acetate called Obacha. That is apparent in this. This is dry, clean, fruity. This is heavy duty, Middle Eastern. This dries down and you're left with that Sidoxide, I think I'm pronouncing it right, and that is a really intense, ambery, woody raw material. this will never come off the skin. And when I say never, obviously I mean 24 hours and you're still going to smell it. This on me would perhaps last 4 to 6 hours, and then I think it would be gone. And that is because it primarily is that sort of pear top note musk combined with nitro musks and ambroxan, not much to anchor it to the skin. This has been built so up to date. This is explosive anger and ambers. This has hardness, aggressiveness to it. I don't understand how people would even say it was the same, to be honest. It's not. This sits on its own and should sit on its own. There are some similarities of the citrus combined with the patchouli and some fruit facets. That's it. What you're smelling as similar is patchouli and healing wood and a few citrus. That's about it. The rest of it is sort of like completely separate. But there is something metallic and something slightly too metallic for my liking on this. I think they're both completely different. I think Aventus is, as it is, it smells like Aventus. You get that nice sort of lift and sort of difference. It smells different in each batch, and that to me is baffling and completely perplexing. The difference in colour of the fragrance, the difference of how it even performs on the skin, and this I'd imagine is just completely consistent. I don't think they're the same at all, and I think it's unfortunate if people compare them that way. So I hope you love that review. Thumbs up and subscribe for more fascinating, interesting content. Lots of moving hands and lots of fragrance reviews. Hope you're staying safe and well, and I'll see you soon.